Explanation of the scattering of the tribes of Yisrael and their captivity to seekers of the truth. To give more clarity, listen to hear what Ruach is saying. The 12 tribes of Yisrael, descendants of Yaakov, Jacob, were scattered due to their disobedience to Yahuah's laws and commandments. This scattering happened in various stages, with 2 primary captivities mentioned in both scripture and historical texts. The Assyrian captivity of the northern tribes, House of Yisrael, the transatlantic slave trade, and the subsequent dispersion of the southern tribes, House of Yahuah. Let's break down who was scattered, where they were taken, and the references that help us understand these events. The Assyrian captivity of the northern tribes, 722 BCE. Who was taken? The northern kingdom, often referred to as the House of Yisrael or the 10 lost tribes, consisted of following tribes: Reuben, Simeon. Levi, a portion of the Levites, lived in the northern kingdom. Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun. Ephraim, half of the tribe of Joseph. Manasseh, half of the tribe of Joseph. In 722 BCE, the Assyrian Empire, under King Shalmaneser V, invaded the northern kingdom of Israel due to their persistent disobedience and idolatry. The 10 northern tribes were taken captive and exiled to various regions within the Assyrian Empire. These exiled tribes were scattered across the empire's territories, including places like Assyria, modern-day northern Iraq, and parts of Syria, and other regions east of the Euphrates. Scriptural references: 2 Kings 17-6. In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried Israel away to Assyria, and placed them in Halah by the Haber, the river of Gozan, and in the cities of the Medes. This verse records the specific locations where the northern tribes were taken, indicating that they were scattered across Assyrian territories. 2 Esdras 13:40-41, Lost Books. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Shalmaneser the king of Assyria led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they in. This passage provides additional context for the dispersion of the northern tribes beyond the territories of Assyria. Some scholars believe they migrated further, possibly to regions in Central Asia and even beyond. Lost identity. The 10 northern tribes are often referred to as the lost tribes because after their exile, they were dispersed among the nations and gradually lost their distinct identity as Israelites. They assimilated into the cultures of the nations where they were scattered. The southern tribes and the transatlantic slave trade. Who was taken? The southern kingdom, often referred to as the House of Yahuah, Judah, consisted of the following tribes: Yahudah, Judah, Benjamin. Levi. The Levites primarily served in the southern kingdom. What happened? After the Assyrian captivity of the northern tribes, the southern kingdom remained in Israel for some time, but eventually faced exile as well. In 586 BCE, the Babylonians, under King captured Jerusalem and took the people of the southern kingdom into captivity in Babylon. After 70 years of captivity, some returned to Jerusalem under the leadership of Ezra and Nehemiah, but many remained scattered throughout Babylon and Persia. Centuries later, after the Roman invasion and destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE, many of the descendants of the southern kingdom were scattered across the Roman Empire. This marked the beginning of a long period of diaspora for Yahudah. However, a significant event in the modern-day scattering of Yahudah occurred during the transatlantic slave trade, which took place from the 15th to the 19th centuries. Millions of people from West Africa, many of whom are believed to be descendants of Yahudah, were taken into captivity and shipped across the Atlantic to the Americas, Europe, and the Caribbean. Scriptural references: Deuteronomy 28-68. And Yahuah shall bring thee into Mitzrayim again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. Thou shalt see it no more again, and there thou shalt be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Many scholars and theologians associate this verse with the transatlantic slave trade, where Israelites, specifically Yehudah and some remnants of the other tribes, were taken into captivity by ship and sold into slavery. Deuteronomy 28-64. And Yahuah shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. This verse refers to the global dispersion of Yahuah's people, including those taken in the transatlantic slave trade. The people were scattered across the four corners of the earth: Africa, the Americas, Europe, and Asia. Who were taken in the slave trade? Historical records show that the regions most affected by the transatlantic slave trade included West Africa, where many descendants of the southern tribes had migrated, including areas such as Ghana, Nigeria, and Benin. Oral traditions and some scholarly research indicate that many people in West Africa, particularly the Igbo, Ashanti, Yoruba, and other groups, have ancient Hebrew roots. These people were among those who were captured and sold into slavery in the Americas. The lost books and prophecies of return to Esdras 15:10-12. Behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Mitzrayim, but I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm, and smite Mitzrayim with plagues as before, and will destroy all the land thereof. This passage from the book of 2 Esdras, a lost book, alludes to the redemption of Yahuah's people after their scattering in bondage, symbolized by Mitzrayim. Many interpret Mitzrayim here as a metaphor for the places of slavery and oppression, including the lands of captivity during the transatlantic slave trade. The purpose of the scattering and the promise of gathering. The scattering of the 12 tribes of Yisrael occurred as a direct result of their disobedience to Yahuah's commandments. However, Yahuah also promised that in the last days, he would gather his people from the four corners of the earth and restore them to their rightful place. Isaiah 11:12. And he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Yehudah from the four corners of the earth. This promise of gathering includes both the northern tribes, house of Israel, and the southern tribes, house of Yehudah. Yahuah's people, scattered through the Assyrian captivity, the Babylonian captivity, the Roman conquest, and the transatlantic slave trade, will be regathered and restored as part of Yahuah's covenant. Jeremiah 30:3. For lo, the days come, saith Yahuah, that I will bring again the captivity of my people Yisrael and Yehudah, saith Yahuah, and I will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their fathers, and they shall possess it. In conclusion, the scattering of the 12 tribes of Israel occurred in phases. The northern tribes were taken captive by the Assyrians and dispersed into unknown lands, while the southern tribes were scattered after the Babylonian captivity and the destruction of the Second Temple. The transatlantic slave trade marks the modern scattering of many descendants of Yehudah and the remaining tribes. Yet, in his mercy, Yahuah promises to regather his people from the four corners of the earth. The scriptures and lost books speak of this grand restoration, a time when Yahuah's people will be reunited under Yahushua HaMashiach, the true King of Israel.